Rachel, TS table is for family. Go find a spot outside. My cousin laughed. Then the YETR dropped a $2,200 bill in front of me. I took a sip of coffee and pushed it back. I stand at the entrance of Belmont's, my fingers tightening around my leather clutch. Through the amber glow of vintage chandeliers, I can see them laughing, wine glasses held high in some private celebration. My family. The maitre just smiles at me with practiced warmth. Your name, miss? Before I can answer, my mother's voice cuts across the dining room. Oh, there she is, finally. Heads turn. I feel the weight of strangers' curious glances as I step forward, the quiet click of my heels against marble marking each step. My black dress is simple, but well-tailored. The kind that whispers success, rather than screams it. They've positioned themselves at the restaurant's finest table, the one with the view of the downtown skyline I once dreamed of being part of. Mother, cousin Lucas, his wife Brittany. The light catches the ruby pendant at my mother's throat. A gift from my father before cancer took him during my sophomore year of college. I approach the table and stop, noticing immediately what they've chosen not to see. There is no chair for me. Lucas sprawls comfortably, one arm draped across the back of his chair, the other holding a glass of something amber and expensive. His smirk arrives before his words do. This table is for family, he says, not bothering to lower his voice. Go find a spot outside. The couple at the neighboring table pauses mid-conversation, their discomfort palpable. Don't take it the wrong way, Rachel. Brittany chimes in with sugar-coated venom. Lucas is just joking, but he isn't, and we all know it. I say nothing, my face betraying nothing as I drag a chair from a nearby table. The legs scrape against the floor, the sound harsh against the restaurant's soft piano music. My mother doesn't meet my eyes. Helen Harrington, once the backbone of our family, now just another vertebra bent to accommodate Lucas's posturing. She fiddles with her napkin, smoothing imaginary wrinkles. You're late, she says finally, as if my arrival 15 minutes early somehow disrupted their decades-long narrative. I settle into my mismatched chair. Traffic. I lie. The truth that I sat in my car for 20 minutes debating whether to come at Oliver's, no strategic advantage. As I watch them clink glasses, a memory surfaces sharp and uninvited. 4 years earlier, my childhood bedroom stripped to bare walls, cardboard boxes containing everything I owned stacked by the door. This business idea of yours is just another phase, my father had said, leaning against the door frame. Not angry, worse, dismissive. You'll be back when reality sets in. I'd moved that day into an apartment so small the kitchen table doubled as my first office desk. I worked 18-hour days, ate ramen heated in a microwave that sparked if you ran it too long, and built my company one client at a time. That first Christmas, I'd called home. The sounds of laughter and clinking glasses had filled the background, as my mother explained they were just having a small gathering, one I wasn't invited to. When Meridian Corp signed my first six-figure contract, the validation that changed everything I'd wanted to call them instead, I'd opened a bottle of champagne with my 2 employees, and toast it to those who believe in themselves when no one else will. Rachel? Earth to Rachel, Lucas snaps his fingers in front of my face. I blink, straightening in my chair. Yes? We've been talking about St. Bart's, Brittany says, twisting her diamond tennis bracelet. Lucas and I went in January. The Rothschilds were actually staying at our resort. I take a sip of water. 3 days ago, my mother's desperate phone call had broken our usual pattern of polite monthly check-ins. It's been so long, sweetie. Everyone misses you. Her voice had carried that particular tone, the one that speaks more in its silence than its words. But loneliness is a powerful motivator, and some buried part of me still longed for a place at the family table. Now I see Lucas's new Rolex glinting as he just to race a watch that cost more than the monthly rent for my first office space. Brittany's purse casually displayed on an empty chair, the designer logo prominently facing outward. Their conversation bounces from exclusive vacation spots to luxury purchases, with the frantic energy of performers who've forgotten their next line. I don't participate. I watch. The waiter arrives with coffee, and I wrap my hands around the warm mug, observing the theater playing out before me. You know what? I'm splurging tonight, Lucas announces, tapping the menu decisively. The Wagyu ribeye. And let's do the 2015 Bordeaux, he tells the waiter without looking up the price. Life's too short for cheap food. Brittany nods enthusiastically. Lobster for me. And maybe we should start with champagne? It's a special occasion we should treat ourselves. One by one, they order the most expensive items on the menu, exchanging knowing glances when they think I'm not looking. My mother nervously fidgets with her napkin, complicit but uncomfortable. I hide my small smile behind my coffee cup as understanding dawns. Now I know exactly why I'm here. So then I told the Andersons that waterfront properties in this market are practically giving themselves away, Lucas says, swirling his wine with practiced nonchalance. They signed the paperwork that afternoon. 2 hours. 2 hours of carefully choreographed conversation that flows around me like water around a stone. Every time I open my mouth to speak, Lucas's voice rises half an octave, drowning out my words before they can take root. Nobody cares about work talk at dinner. He interrupts when I begin describing our company's expansion into the European market. His hand dismissively waves in the air between us. We're here to catch up on family stuff, as if I'm not family. As if my life's work is somehow less significant than his fabricated real estate victories. I take a measured sip of water, mentally documenting each slight. The waiter has refilled my glass 4 times. I've barely touched my food. Watching, listening, learning. You look good for someone who works all the time, Brittany offers, her eyes scanning my face for signs of fatigue she can comment on. Do you ever actually leave that office of yours? Before I can answer, she launches into a story about her spa weekend. The words rejuvenation and self-care falling from her lips with practiced ease. My mother reaches across the table, her fingers briefly brushing my wrist. Let's all just enjoy being together, she says, her smile strained at the edges. It's been too long. Whose fault is that? I almost ask, but don't. Instead, I nod and cut a small piece of my untouched salmon. Oh, Lucas. Tell Rachel about that new place we tried last month, my mother says suddenly. The Italian one with the chandeliers made from Venetian glass. I set my fork down carefully. Last month, an awkward silence descends, brief but heavy. We try to do this monthly, Brittany explains, examining her manicure. Family dinner, it's tradition. A tradition I'm just now hearing about. I say, the realization settling like ice in my stomach. Lucas clears his throat. Well, you're always so busy, running your little company and all. The diminutive stings exactly as intended. I straighten imperceptibly in my chair. Not too busy for family if invited. My mother's eyes dart nervously between us. More wine, anyone? Lucas seizes the opportunity to shift topics. Speaking of business, he leans forward, his Rolex catching the light. The market's been brutal lately. 3 deals fell through last week. He looks pointedly at me. Not everyone can be swimming in success. I recognize the play immediately. The suggestion of struggle, the implication of need. That Mercedes you were looking at might need to wait, Brittany says, placing a comforting hand on his arm. Such a difficult time to be making big purchases. She turns to me. I've been trying to find something to replace my Audi, but everything is just so expensive these days, even the base models. My mother nods sympathetically before adding, Rachel has been so blessed financially with her business taking off like it has. There it is. The setup crystallizes before me, elegant in its simplicity. The expensive restaurant, the lavish orders, the stories of financial hardship, followed by pointed references to my success. They didn't invite me to dinner. They invited my wallet. The waiter approaches with practiced timing, a leather-bound check folder nestled in his hands. Lucas catches his eye and nods slightly. The folder lands directly in front of me with a soft thud. I don't immediately reach for it. The silence stretches, heavy with expectation. Lucas finally says, leaning back with a triumphant smile. Thanks for dinner, Rachel. You don't mind, right? We figured since you're doing so well. All eyes turn to me. My mother's fingers nervously twist her napkin. Brittany's smile is brittle at the edges. Lucas radiates entitled confidence. My phone buzzes in my purse. I retrieve it, glancing at the screen. Meeting confirmed for 9 p.m. We've locked in the Singapore contract. Celebrating at the office whenever you can make it, Diane. A picture forms in my mind, my business partner Diane, who stayed until 3 a.m., helping me finish our first major proposal, Miguel from development, who brought me soup when I worked through a fever to meet a deadline, Sarah from legal, who believed in our vision enough to leave her corner office at a prestigious firm. People who saw my potential, celebrated my victories, supported me through setbacks. My chosen family. The contrast is stark and clarifying. Blood ties do not automatically confer loyalty, respect, or love. Those qualities must be earned, cultivated through consistent action and mutual regard. I pick up the check slowly, examining it with careful attention. The table collectively exhales, relief rippling across their features. My mother's shoulders relax. Lucas's smirk deepens. Brittany adjusts her designer purse, already moving on to her next thought. I set the bill down directly in front of Lucas. My voice, when it comes, is quiet but firm. I'm not your personal ATM. The silence that follows is absolute. Lucas's face flushes red. Brittany's mouth opens slightly, no words emerging. My mother is the first to recover. Rachel, honey, she says, her voice taking on the placating tone she used when I was a child having a difficult moment. You can help them out a little, can't you? We're family. Family. The word hangs between us, its meaning twisted beyond recognition. In their definition, family means I give and they take. My success becomes communal property, while my struggles remain solitary burdens. I meet my mother's eyes directly. Yes, we are family, which is why I deserve the same respect you'd give to anyone else at this table. The trembling begins in Lucas's hands first. A slight vibration that travels up his arms, as the reality of my refusal sets in. $2,000 of carefully cultivated entitlement crashing against the seawall of my quiet dignity. I stand, gathering my purse. Not in anger or haste, but with the deliberate movements of a woman reclaiming her worth one boundary at a time. Have you ever had to stand your ground against family members who tried to take advantage of your success? What words did you use to set boundaries? The bill sits between us, leather-bound and imposing. $2,200 for a single dinner. Lucas stares at me, his face gradually shifting from smugness to disbelief as I make no move toward my purse. The flush begins at his collar and climbs upward, an angry crimson. You can't be serious. His voice rises, drawing glances from neighboring tables. You make more than all of us combined. I take another sip of my coffee, savoring its bitter warmth. That's irrelevant to who ordered what. Brittany leans forward, the sweetness in her voice curdling. We wouldn't have ordered all this if we knew you'd be so petty about it. Her designer bracelet catches the light as she gestures toward the untouched dessert plates, the half-empty wine bottles. My mother touches my arm, her fingers trembling slightly. Maybe we can split it somehow. You take half, and we'll manage the rest? The restaurant manager approaches, his practiced smile tightening at the corners. Is everything all right here? I couldn't help but notice some concern. His gaze flicks between our tense faces and the untouched bill. Professional concern barely masking discomfort. Beneath my calm exterior, emotions crash against each other like storm waves. Anger, disappointment. A strange, unexpected grief for what this family could have been. We've been planning this dinner for weeks, Lucas finally admits, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You never return Mom's call. You're too busy for family gatherings. What were we supposed to do? Ask. I say simply, not manipulate. Brittany's perfect mask slips further. You never come to family things anyway, unless there's something in it for you. The accusation hangs in the air between us, heavy with irony she doesn't recognize. When have I ever been genuinely invited? I counter quietly. The last 3 Christmases, Dad's memorial service anniversary, your housewarming. I was there alone, while everyone else brought partners and barely acknowledged. Mother dabs at her eyes with her napkin. We just thought you wouldn't mind helping out the family, she whispers, tears welling. Things have been difficult. I didn't know how else to ask you. Difficult how? I press, already suspecting the answer. Lucas and Brittany exchange glances. I lost my job 3 months ago. Lucas stares at his plate, the admission clearly costing him. The real estate market tanked, and our firm downsized. He's been looking everywhere, Brittany adds quickly. But we have appearances to maintain. You understand that. I think about the Rolex on his wrist. The European vacation photos Brittany posted last month, the designer purse preening on its own chair. Our credit cards are maxed out, Brittany confesses, her voice barely audible. All of them. The picture clarifies, maintaining the illusion of success while drowning in debt. And I'm the designated life raft. I remember my 8th grade science fair winning first place with a solar energy project I built myself. My parents didn't attend. They were celebrating Lucas's passing algebra with the minimum grade required. My high school graduation, or my valedictorian speech, received polite applause from my family, followed by excessive fawning over my cousin's acceptance to a state college with a C average. Working 2 jobs to put myself through college while they posted family vacation photos from Cancun. Sorry you couldn't join us, Rachel, but we know how dedicated you are to your studies. The Christmas after I started my business, when Lucas loudly proclaimed to the extended family, Rachel's playing entrepreneur now. Let's see how long until she comes back to the real world. Holiday gatherings where I arrived alone because work consumed my life, while they brought significant others who were welcomed immediately. Family dinners where my growing business successes were deliberately ignored. Changed to other topics with practiced smoothness. Remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago? I asked quietly. Lucas looks confused by this apparent non sequitur. I had just landed the Westfield account. It doubled my company's revenue overnight. When I mentioned it, you said, and I quote, "Nobody wants to hear about your little company at dinner, Rachel." That was just a joke, he mutters, but his eyes slide away from mine. In Mom's 4th of July barbecue last summer, when I mentioned we'd expanded to a new office downtown, you told everyone I was trying to sound important and changed the subject to Brittany's new car. Mother shifts uncomfortably, never having defended me against these slights. And now my little company makes me worth asking for money. I tap the bill with one finger. Interesting timing. The manager returns, his professional demeanor intact but purpose clear. I apologize for the interruption, but we have other guests waiting. We'll need to resolve the bill soon. His polite words carry firm urgency. Lucas's frustration boils over. Fine, you've made your point, just pay half. Brittany frantically taps at her phone, evidently messaging friends for emergency loans. From her increasingly panicked expression, the responses aren't favorable. Nobody's answering, she hisses at Lucas. Lucas pulls out his wallet, flipping through it with growing desperation. A membership card, a driver's license, a single $20 bill. Mother opens her purse, hands trembling. As she searches for a credit card they all know is already maxed out. The manager shifts his weight from one foot to another. We'll need to resolve this bill now, please. My mother pulls out a checkbook so rarely used. The cover is still pristine. Rachel, please, she whispers. Just this once. I think about all the just this once moments that would inevitably follow. The gradual erosion of boundaries, the entitled expectations that would grow with each concession. You ordered it, you pay for it, I say, meeting each of their eyes in turn. I'm only responsible for my coffee. I place a $10 bill on the table, $4 for my coffee, $6 for the server who has to witness this family drama. Lucas grips the edge of the table. You'd really let your own mother be humiliated in public? No, I answer, the word sharper than I intended. But I'd let adults face the consequences of their choices. What price would you put on self-respect? As I look at the $2,200 bill and the family who plotted for weeks to manipulate me into paying it, I realize I already know my answer. You'll regret embarrassing us like this, Lucas hisses, leaning across the table until I can smell the expensive bourbon on his breath. His voice is low enough that nearby diners won't hear the words, but loud enough to ensure everyone at our table does. The veneer of family warmth has vanished like morning dew under a harsh sun. Brittany's eyes well with tears, perfectly timed. Dewdrops slide down her cheeks, leaving trails through her foundation, but somehow not disturbing her mascara. I can't believe you'd do this to your own family, she says, her voice catching on the word family with practiced precision. After everything we've done for you, Mother fidgets with her ruby pendant, twisting it back and forth on its chain. The pendant catches the light with each nervous movement, sending small red reflections dancing across the crisp white tablecloth. Rachel, please, she says, not meeting my eyes. After everything we've done for you. The phrase hangs in the air between us, a question without a question mark. I search my memory for what exactly they've done for me beyond offering conditional love with strings attached like puppet masters. The unified front they presented just minutes earlier, their smug certainty that I would cover this extravagant bill begins to crack like thin ice under too much weight. Lucas pulls out his wallet and slaps down a credit card with theatrical confidence. The manager runs it through the machine, then returns with a tight smile. I'm sorry, sir, this card has been declined. Lucas's face flushes. He produces another card, then another. Each time, the manager returns with the same apologetic expression. Brittany digs through her designer purse, her fingers trembling slightly as she hands over her own card. I'm sorry, ma'am. I watched this performance unfold, my coffee now cold between my palms. The weight of their expectations, this trap they've laid, sits heavily across my shoulders. But as they scramble to solve a problem entirely of their own making, something shifts inside me. I place a $5 bill on the table beside my untouched coffee cup. For my coffee, I say, adding another 20. And a tip for our server. 3 pairs of eyes swing toward me, each revealing a different flavor of desperation. Lucas opens his mouth, but I meet his gaze with such steady calm that his words die before reaching his lips. I'm just letting everyone take responsibility for their own choices, I say, looking at each family member in turn. My voice neither angry nor satisfied, simply resolved. We all make decisions. We all live with the consequences. I gather my purse and stand. My shoulders, which have been tight with tension since I first walked into Belmont's, suddenly relax. I feel taller, straighter, as if I've put down a burden I've been carrying for years. The manager clears his throat. Perhaps there's someone else you could call for assistance with the bill. Lucas's nostrils flare as he pulls out his phone. He steps away from the table, his back rigid as he makes a call that clearly pains him more than any physical injury could. Brittany's fingers fly to her wrist, unclasping her tennis bracelet with frantic movements. She begins removing earrings next, piling the jewelry in front of her as if preparing for a pawn shop visit. Rachel. My mother rises, following me as I step away from the table. Her voice drops to a whisper. Please reconsider. Just this once. We can work something out later. I turn to face her. For the first time tonight, her expression contains genuine emotion rather than social performance. Fear lurks in the lines around her eyes, not just fear of the bill, but fear of losing me. This isn't about money, I say gently but firmly. It's about respect. I won't be used, not even by family, especially not by family. She flinches as if I've slapped her, but the words needed to be said. I catch my reflection in the restaurant's ornate mirror as I turn. The woman looking back at me stands straight, her eyes clear and certain. For the first time all evening, perhaps for the first time in years, I recognize myself completely. Tomorrow I'll sit with my team, people who value my ideas, who collaborate rather than manipulate, people who've earned my trust through consistent respect rather doomed it through genetic connection. As I reach the door, my mother's hand catches my elbow. "Please don't leave like this," she says, her voice smaller than I've ever heard it. Her eyes, so like mine in color but not in conviction, search my face for mercy. I cover her hand with mine, feeling the paper-thin skin that speaks of her advancing years. "This pattern needs to end," I tell her, my voice softening. "I'm willing to talk just you and me when you're ready, but there need to be new rules. Respect, honesty, and no financial exploitation." She swallows hard, nodding slightly. "Call me when you're ready," I add. Squeezing her hand once before letting go, I push through the heavy glass door of Belmont's and step into the cool night air. Behind me, the family drama continues to unfold. But ahead of me stretches an evening suddenly free of obligation, a future reclaimed, one boundary at a time. The door remains open behind me both literally and figuratively, but only those willing to meet me on equal ground will find welcome on the other side. My heels click against the asphalt as I stride toward my car. The night air feels clean after the suffocating atmosphere inside. I hear the restaurant door slam open behind me. "Rachel." Lucas's voice bounces off the parked cars. I keep walking, my key fobs in my hand, freedom just 20 steps away. "Don't you dare walk away." His footsteps quicken, gaining on me. "You're not part of this family anymore." The words are meant to wound, to stop me in my tracks. 5 years ago they might have. I slow my pace but don't turn. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." I pivot, shoulders square. Lucas's face is mottled red beneath the parking lot's fluorescent glow. Behind him, Brittany hurries to catch up, her designer heels clicking aggressively on the pavement. Several diners linger near the restaurant entrance, openly watching the unfolding drama. "You ungrateful little," Lucas cuts himself off, breathing hard. Who do you think you are?" "I think I'm someone who just wanted a normal family dinner." My voice remains level, a stark contrast to his escalating volume. Brittany reaches us slightly breathless. "This isn't about dinner, and you know it." Mother appears in the restaurant doorway, hesitating. I see the indecision in her posture cut between her niece and nephew and her only daughter. Lucas runs his hand through his hair, a gesture so reminiscent of my father that it momentarily disarms me. Then his expression shifts, calculated concern replacing raw anger. "Mom has medical bills she can't pay," he says, voice dropping to an urgent whisper. "We wouldn't have asked, but it's serious." I look past him to Mother, who can't meet my eyes. The final piece clicks into place. This dinner wasn't just about sticking me with an expensive bill. It was the prelude to a much larger financial request. "We wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious," Brittany adds, her voice honey-sweet again. Family helps family, Rachel. A couple passing by slows their pace, pretending not to listen. I wait until they're out of earshot. "There are better ways to ask for help than manipulation," I say quietly. "If Mom has medical issues, I'd be the first to know about it." Mother finally approaches, her ruby pendant catching the streetlight. "It's just some tests, honey, nothing to worry about. Insurance covers most of it." The betrayal stings worse than Lucas's anger. Mother was in on the scheme from the beginning, using her health as a bargaining chip. I take a deep breath, weighing decades of family history against this moment. "Mom, if you have medical needs, we can discuss that privately. I'm willing to help with legitimate expenses." "See?" Lucas bursts in. "She can afford." I lift my hand, cutting him off. "I wasn't talking to you." Brittany steps forward. "We're all family here. Supporting family doesn't mean enabling bad behavior," I reply. "Showing up tonight and discovering you plan to use me as your personal ATM isn't how family treats each other." I reach into my purse and extract a business card, holding it out to Mother. She takes it with trembling fingers. "Call me tomorrow. Just you," I tell her. Then I turn to Lucas and Brittany. "Figure out your own bill tonight." "You can't be serious," Brittany sputters. "I am. And if Mom wants to discuss her medical situation honestly, I'll consider helping. But I won't be manipulated again." I turn to leave, the weight of their stares heavy on my back. "You think you're better than us now?" Lucas shouts, his voice echoing across the parking lot. I pause, considering his question. Am I? With my successful business and financial independence, it would be easy to think so, but that's not it at all. I glance over my shoulder. No, just different. And that's okay. The simple truth lands like a stone dropping into still water. Lucas's mouth opens and closes without sound. Beside him, Brittany sinks onto a nearby bench, her facade completely shattered. All the energy she'd put into maintaining appearances drains away in an instant. Mother stands frozen between us, her gaze darting from me to Lucas and Brittany. I see the silent calculation in her eyes: follow her daughter or stay with her niece and nephew. The tableau we create is illuminated by headlights as a car pulls into the lot, briefly spotlighting our family drama for all to see. "Rachel, please," Mother whispers, but doesn't move toward me. I nod once, accepting her choice without comment. My number's on the card. As I walk to my car, I don't look back. The sharp night air fills my lungs with each breath, and I realize I'm not sad and relieved. For the first time in years, I've spoken my truth without apology. My hand doesn't shake when I unlock my car door. The woman reflected in my window looks steady, unbroken, different, not better, and finally at peace with that distinction. Inside the safety of my car, I allow myself one deep shuddering breath before turning the key in the ignition. As I drive away from Belmont's, I leave behind more than an unpaid dinner bill. I leave behind the weight of expectations I never agreed to carry. Tomorrow, Mother may call, or she may not. Either way, I'll sleep soundly tonight. I stand at the wall of windows in my office, watching the city awaken beneath me. 3 months since Belmont's. 3 months of reclaiming what family means. The morning light catches on the framed photo on my desk, me at 22. Exhausted but determined, sitting at that kitchen table that doubled as my first desk, I touch the frame lightly. A silent acknowledgement of how far I've come. Rachel, Maya, my operations director, appears in the doorway. "Team's ready when you are." I follow her into our conference room where 6 faces turn to me with something I never found at that restaurant table: genuine respect. "Let's begin," I say. And the meeting flows with the practiced rhythm of people who value each other's contributions. No one speaks over anyone else. No one belittles ideas. We build together, brick by thoughtful brick. This is what I've built. Not just a business, but a community. "One sugar, right?" Mom asks, sliding the coffee across the cafe table toward me. I nod, watching her hands steadier now than they were a month ago. "We've made these coffee meetings a monthly tradition. Small steps. The bookstore hired me full-time," she says. Pride creeping into her voice. "Manager liked how I reorganized the history section." "That's great, Mom." She hesitates, then adds, "I've been meaning to thank you for not giving up on me that night." The memory of Belmont's flickers between USA ghosts growing fainter with each passing day. I'm learning too, I admit, about where to invest my energy. Last week Mom joined us for my birthday dinner, not at some ostentatious restaurant, but in Eliza's backyard. My friend since college, Eliza had strung lights across her patio and cooked my favorite lasagna. Mom brought homemade brownies and fit seamlessly into the evening, laughing genuinely at Jordan's terrible jokes and listening to Kim's stories about our early business struggles. For the first time, I saw her without the shadow of Lucas and Brittany looming over her. Lucas took a job in Hartford. Mom mentions casually as we walk through the park the following Sunday. Something in sales, smaller salary, but he seems I don't know. Lighter? I nod, not surprised. We've kept our distance, but through Mom, I've heard snippets. Brittany's Instagram no longer features designer labels and exotic locations, but home-cooked meals and local hiking trails. Their fall was hard but necessary. "He asked about you," Mom adds tentatively. "When he's ready for an honest conversation, he knows how to reach me." I've made peace with the timeline being out of my control. Some relationships heal, others remain broken. Both outcomes are acceptable. That evening, the aroma of garlic and rosemary fills my kitchen as friends move around the space with comfortable familiarity. Mom arranges her homemade rolls in a basket, contributing rather than expecting. "Wine's open," calls Eliza, pouring generously. We gather around my table, not the expensive mahogany Lucas would choose, but a warm cherry wood that bears the gentle scars of dinners past. Each mark tells a story of laughter, of tears shed in safe company, of midnight brainstorming sessions. As conversations overlap and weave together, I realize what I've created here. Not the pale imitation of connection that lived in those strained restaurant meals, but something authentic. These people see Mennett as a resource to exploit, but as a whole person, flaws and strengths alike. Later, Mom and I walk along the shoreline near my apartment, the sunset painting the water gold. When she stumbles on a rocky patch, I offer my arm without hesitation. "I'm glad we found our way back to each other," she says softly. I help her navigate the uneven ground, supporting without carrying. "Family isn't who you're born to," I tell her. "It's who you choose to become together."